तू मेरा पिता, तू है मेरा माता, तू मेरा बंधप, तू मेरा भ्राता, तू मेरा राखा सबनी थाई तापोके हा काड़ा जियो तुमरी कृपा ते तुद पछाणा तू मेरी ओट तू है मेरा माणा तुझ बिन दूजा अवर न कोई सब तेरा खेल अखाड़ा जियो।
Welcome seekers to today's spiritual satsang, titled Intuition. I have with me East Asia's main speaker, who is an advanced disciple of a perfect living master. Okay, so main speaker, the first question for this topic is, what is intuition?
Intuition is a gut feeling, the feeling or the answer that comes when you ask right away, where there's no time, that it takes no time to have this answer. For example, if somebody asks you, oh, do you want to drink orange juice or just water? And if you ask in your mind, maybe I want water, that's not your intuition answer. The answer should come right away. When you look at the water and the orange juice, then you pick right away water. So that's, that's you using the gut feeling to answer, to operate in your life. And the gut feeling, that's the indication that you always making the right choice in your life.
Okay, so according to your explanation about intuition and the part where you mentioned choosing orange juice and water, is it the same as just making a random choice? Like if somebody asks you about the choice to make water or orange juice, and then you just say, okay, orange juice, and without even thinking, you just mention orange juice. Is this intuition or is this just randomness in your mind?
Intuition will always come from what is pre-written for you to choose. We have our free will to choose in your life. You think that you have your free will, but ultimately, everything operates by God's will. We only have this free will in human realm, in the physical world, for us to make new karma. So yes, I have to explain about the karma and the free will. So when we become human, we have 60% of the collective karma, and we have 30% of our destiny karma to indicate who we are, what country you will born, to which family, and how long you live this human life. This is all destiny karma. And it leaves 10% of the new karma to make. Because in human life, we have been given opportunity to exercise our free will. So we can make the right choice and we can make the wrong choice. We can do good and we can do bad. And because of this window of opportunity of 10% of creating this new karma, so also we can become a spiritual seeker, the seeking of the ultimate. We can seeking for true salvation and getting out of this illusion, these illusory worlds. So God make a man into his own image by putting this opportunity to exercise the free will that is similar to God's will. But because we are only human, our will is not that exact of that God will. Sometimes we make wrong choices and sometimes we make the right choices. But if you fully understand that nothing is outside the God will, and whatever will we make will always be God will, then you will understand to look for intuition, to understand more about your intuition feeling in order to make the right choice for yourself. And by doing the right choice, I mean that's the choice that make alignment with the God will, with the God choice that you're supposed to make. But it doesn't mean that that choice is leading always to a good result. Sometimes it's leading to a bad result for you to learn. But because it is in your karma, in your collective karma and destiny for you to fulfill that role, it means that even if that choice is the right choice but it's bad for you, you meant to choose it anyway. Okay, now it might confuse, okay, then how do I know what is the right choice for me and what is the wrong choice for me? Because I can only use my will, my own will, and I know nothing about God's will. For example, my master, Ishwar Puriji and Babaji, always said this to the disciple. They said that we should look for the sign. We should look for the coincidences or miracle around us that point out that the choice that we have in mind, that is the right choice. Sometimes the coincidences, direct you in one choice than the other, even more than 3 times. For example, I said to you about the choice between water and orange juice. If you were to choose, right, maybe it happened in your mind first in the morning and that you are thirsty and you want to have some water in your mind. That's the first coincidences. The second one, when you go out and you wish to buy an orange juice, but there's only water available for you on that day. That's the second coincidences. And then when your friend came and asking you, okay, do you want to drink water or the orange juice? Then right away, you will think of the water first. Because first thing in the morning, you already think of the water. And when you go outside, you already seen only water on that day, right? So the third side of coincidences will be somebody offer you water. So that's how you look for the sign. But it's so hard for us to choose, right? What is right and what is wrong. So according to Ishwar Puriji, he said, the choice that we made also depend on our society, also depend on our upbringing, also depend on what is written in our DNA from ancestor. If your ancestor always drink water and never know of orange juice, right, until recently, you will most likely choosing water from the orange juice. And if your DNA is such that, orange juice is too acidic for you to drink, then you will choose the water for a better health result. So that's how we indicate what is God's will, what is written for us to choose. And then if we starting to understand how the whole creation direct us to choose one choice more than the other, then you will never choose the wrong choices. You will always choose the right choice for yourself. And that's how God exercises His will through us, by directing us to choose always the right choice. Now, what happens if you choose the wrong choice? It means that you will bring unnecessary suffering to yourself. Like I said previously, if your body reacts to acidic drink and you happen to choose the orange juice, you will have to suffer. You might have diarrhea, right? And that's the example of the wrong choice that is create a bad karma upon yourself because you have been choosing the wrong choice. On the spiritual part, they talking a lot about free will and God will. And Master always said to us that we should follow God will. Why? Because if we always choosing whatever agreeable with the God will, whatever in alignment of the God will, it make our journey shorter. And we are easily going back to God. And if ever we always follow our man will, our mind will, it makes our journey longer. It is what it is. It's not what they said it's black and white, right or wrong. It means that if you choose to make choice that is not in alignment with God's will, it just adds up more to your story. But make sure that every time you make wrong choice, you make my will, you learn from that. And next time, you understand to look for intuition feeling, gut feeling inside you. And if you're not sure yet about that intuition answer, try to look for the coincidences, the sign that point you into that answer, whatever evidence that support you to make the right choice. And the key of following God's will is to be patient, not to jump right away into making decisions. Making decisions according to the coincidences that you receive, the sign from God that you receive, then you will always live in God's will.
If I feel like I shouldn't do something, is this intuition or is this worry?
If you feel that you should doing this, doing that, pushing yourself to do that, it might be not God's will. Because the struggle is in the mind. The mind wants to be struggle to achieve something. But from the soul level, the soul is the receiver, right? And the giver is the God. So soul never struggle. In the soul level, there's only positiveness, and the negativeness, it belongs to the mind. So whatever you try to push yourself to do it without any support, right? And you have to struggle for it because there's no support. It means that God is not on your side. It means that you try to push yourself to become this and to become that. And you just make your journey back to God longer. So my advice is that never try to push yourself to do anything unnecessary. Always look for the support or the coincidences, For example, because God is not, God cannot be in human form to tell you directly. So God worked through the system to letting you know that what you're supposed to do at this time, at that time, right? So God will put a lot of support for you. If that choice you're supposed to make, you will already see the support waiting for you to fulfill that role, to fulfill that task. So never try to push yourself on anything. But I'm not saying that you should not try to being better in your spiritual attainment. You have to have attitude that you always have to strive to be better in your mind, but not try to push yourself in any way in physical to be better, because maybe sometime you will walk in the wrong direction.
How do you make choices solely based on intuition? For example, Ishwaji used to mention the coffee or tea choice. So how do you make such a choice, for example, choosing your drink purely by intuition?
Intuition is what comes to you first in your mind without time or space. And this, I already said to you, is already pre-written in you to choose that. So it's always the easy choice. It's always the right choice. Because these feelings that come to you will take no time, no space. Because it's actually come from the soul. The soul not operate in time nor space. The soul is the power that operates, that makes us alive. So by having the soul power all the time, the soul always directs us to do what is right, in order to make our journey shorter toward God. But the mind is different. The mind creates to make the creation last longer, because the mind wants to be in control. And the nature of the mind is that it operates in the time and the space. So the mind will always go into analytical mode, the thinking mode, before choosing anything. If you study well about intuition, about my will and God will, you will come to realize that some decision that you made during the day is of the mind, and some decision that you made will of God will, will be from the soul. Saint, master, a perfect living master, they live their life in God's will. It means they always choose the choice from their intuition feeling and let the soul direct their life, not the mind. For example, there's one brother that I know. He is very unlucky person before he met with a perfect living master. And when he came to a perfect living master, the master said to him, never follow the my will, always follow the God will. And the master gave him the tips that he should never start anything first. Always wait very patiently for things to come to him and react on that and respond to that, whether it's good or bad, because that is God's will for him. So, being a very sincere spiritual practitioner, he took it on board very seriously. He said, okay, from now on, I will never call anyone first. Let other people call me. I will never do anything first unless I have been told to do so. Right? He will not even move if there's no one asking him to move or to do anything. Then, after this, people start to protest around him, thinking like, oh, you took the master instruction to the extreme. It's very hard to live with you, right? They just complained to him. But he said, well, in my life, for 40-something years, I have lived my life in my will, and it never worked for me. And when I came to Master and he told me this, with his grace, I embrace this instruction of Master of following God's will fully. I might seem to be very extreme, but I want to try out for myself if it brings any luck on my side. And he has said to me that his life improved greatly after he did that experiment of living in God's will. He said, it's already paid off after he lived in God's will. Never start anything first. Let everything come to him for 1 week. He said, everything worked out beautifully, like he has been supported by invisible power that makes everything work for him. Even in his mind, telling that, oh, maybe he should not do that. Maybe what other people suggest to him might not be right. But he tried to follow it in, observer mode of his life. He said everything worked out just fine for him. And if anything bad would happen in his life, like somebody tricked him to do this, do that, using him because they think like, oh, this guy will never say no. But you know what happened? Master happened to protect him from the bad consequence. Master happened to protect him that nothing bad would come to him and nothing bad would happen to him because he sincerely followed God's will. And that's the secret. I would try to challenge people that come to me and complain that they are unlucky. I would say to them, what if you try to follow God's will? On one day in your life, taking a day off, don't go to work, right? Taking a day off, sit in your house, waking up, sit in your house, doing nothing until somebody call you until you have been told to move or to do anything. And you will see how God will manifest into your life by doing that. It might seem to be difficult and too extreme, but I would suggest, anyone that wants to know what is different between my will and God's will to do this. The rule is two things. First, never start anything of your own. Never start anything first. Secondly, properly respond to whatever comes to you and doing that.
All right. Just to add on to that previous answer, back to the choice of coffee and tea. Sometimes when we are given this choice and the first thing that goes to our mind is maybe, okay, I'm going to choose coffee. And then after a few seconds, you'll be like, maybe I had too much coffee today. I'm just going to choose tea instead. So that change in choice making, is that an intuitive process, or did we just included our mind into the choice making, therefore we made that change? Because the first thing that came to your mind was coffee, and then it became tea after you contemplate.
Yeah. So it's very obvious, isn't it? The answer that you think no time is the coffee. And, answer after analytical mode, right? After some thought is the tea. So the tea is the choice of the mind, and the coffee is the choice of the soul. But you said to me that, okay, maybe I've drank a lot of coffee already. I might have to choose tea. In God's will, you meant to choose coffee and you meant to suffer or maybe sleepless night of that day, right?
Yeah.
To pay off some karma.
Yeah.
But if you choose to have tea, then the karma is such you have to pay off, right? You have to suffer in different forms. Maybe you're going back home, have argument with wife or children, have fighting in the house, so you cannot sleep that night. So it will plan out in different way. You understand?
Yep.
But the result is the same.
Yep.
But it will add up more to your suffering. It will actually create new karma because the new plan have to add up into your plan, right? Like the plan is you should have, the result is you should have sleepless night. But the first choice of the coffee, it just happened to yourself. But then, because you choose the tea, then God have to add it more up in other character to feel agitated, angry, and fight in the house. What I told you is very poor example, but I just try to explain how it worked to you, like this.
I would just like to add one thing. What if you leave the choice making to somebody else? For example, somebody offers you tea or coffee, and then you ask the guy back and say, which one do you think I should drink, tea or coffee? And then the guy makes a choice for you. Will this alter any karmic processes because you left the choice making to somebody else? Is that a good way to live life? Like, just leave the choice making to someone else other than yourself?
Okay. If you would make it in order to build the living faith with God, then every choices that other people choose to you always be the right choice for you. But if you would follow this process, like, okay, I will never make a choice on my own because I'm scared of making a right choice or a wrong choice, then you try to ask people to make choice for you. That's the blind faith. And sometimes it can lead to a different result, a longer journey back to God. I would suggest if you ever want to try that, for, okay, I will never make choice now in my life. I will let other people make choice for me. Your main objective has to be, you have to have this attitude toward making a living faith and not a blind faith.
Moving on to the continuation question, how does one develop more intuition? Is this a skill that you can train, or does this just come naturally? How does one develop more feelings of intuition?
The feeling of intuition is actually in there of every being. Sometimes it's like an instinct feeling, that comes to you right away. It's already in you. We doesn't actually need to build up in us because it's already there. But the training has to be to ignore the mind, because the mind will always analytical, because it's the function of the mind. So, we have to listen less to the mind and listen more to our heart, our instinct, or our soul. We have to listen more to it. In order to do that, like I said, the example of the brother, that he just make experiment on himself, like, what is the right choice for him to make. And he just stopped making or starting anything on his own and let, everything else in the creation decide for him what to do. So you can train like that as well. Like one day, you stop whatever your routine is. You live a life by other people or something else in the system told you to do. You can start to, okay, like I said, if anyone listen to me and doing that, they start from by faith. By start from by faith, then after that, if they have enough of evidence or direct experience of living in God's will, they will start to live in the living faith. For example, Master always told us at the time of initiation that we should always contemplate on the form of the Master and try to have conversation with him. And I previously have conversation with you where you would imagine Master sit in your living room talking to you, or sit next to you at work talking to you, or sitting in a passenger seat in your car while you're driving and you have conversation. So that you start that from by faith, right? Because Master told you that it might be the way of connecting with the divine inside. So you start from imagination first. And after that, when God's grace comes, when the blessing comes, it's actually become real. Master will start to become more and more alive. The one that sitting in your car, the one that's sitting in your living room, the one that's sitting next to you at work, will actually become more alive. Like, for example, in the beginning, Master would not talk much, right? Would just sit there smiling at you all day, all night. But after the God grace comes, right? Because you have faith. Faith has to be bright first, yeah? And the living faith later. After the God grace comes, Master will start talking to you, say yes and no to you, the way that your mind don't. Because your mind always say no to you. Sometimes Master say yes, sometimes Master say no. Sometimes, if the living faith grow a lot, you can start to have a proper conversation with Master, where Master is the one who talks, and you are the one who listens. That's, the soul talking to you directly in master form. But Master always said to us that, okay, be mindful that sometimes the mind can trick you, come into master form as well. They can deceive and trick you because the mind is the master of illusion. Then, at the time of initiation, Master will give you the mantra, the sacred mantra, the 5 names for you to recite. So, for example, you said to me, you imagine Master sitting in a car at work or in your living room. When you start to imagine that, please always try to recite the names, the holy name, the holy mantra first. And if Master remain there and not going away or disappear, it means that it's the real Master that you should focus on. But if upon reciting the mantra, Master start to disappear, it means that it's the projection of your mind. It's not the projection from your soul. That's the catch. So, before you're having conversation with Master or receive any instruction, always make sure that you check out first if it's your mind or if it's your soul that responds to you by doing the holy names. Because the repetition of words, it makes some kind of the holy vibration, also called Shabad. So with this vibration, it will remove all the negative entity that try to trick you, or every projection of your mind that try to trick you. Because in the holy name, it includes Master power, God power, and the power from the origin of the soul to help you to know what is the true and what is not.
How does your past life affect intuition, or does it have any effect at all for intuition, for your own intuition?
So the previous past life that the soul, have journeyed into this creation, a lot of time we will forget about our past life. But what we carry on is the sanskar. Sanskar is the attitude or the habit that we taking upon us to the next lifetime. So you will have a certain point of view, a certain attitude toward whatever your decision. For example, if you are a good person with the right attitude, you will always choosing the choice that benefit others and yourself in a good manner. But if you happen to be a bad, selfish person, by your sanskar, by your attitude, you might always choose the choice that is good for you and bad for the other people. So you might not fully, perceive or conscious about your past life, because in the human form, we make to forget about our past life. We not fully remember all the past life because the memory of the human is limited. We can't, put all the past life in this memory. So we made to forget so we can function in this lifetime and take this life to be real, to be, more serious and focused on the character of this life. So therefore, we make to forget. But one thing that we not forget and is imprinted in us is the sanskar, the attitude that you have, that you've been collecting throughout your journey. Is the experiences that soul having having journey toward this creation. So therefore, yes, there's something called sanskar in you that will affect your choice. And the choice also will build up the new sanskar as well. It's like build up as you go along. When the soul goes through this journey in this creation of the time and the space.
Can a person live with 100% with only... Okay, sorry, let me repeat the question. Can a person live 100% with only spiritual will? I think it's the questioner is trying to ask whether a person can live his life 100% with only using his spiritual will.
Yes, it's possible to live fully in God's will. You know, all saints in the past, present, and even in future, they always live their life in God's will fully. That's why you will see a lot of perfect living master. They said that they live their life in the seva of their master. It means that they only move when master told them to. They only do things when master told them to. What they mean actually is that they always have to go to their physical master, ask them what to do every minute. No, it's not like that. Because they're in tune with their inner master. And the inner master always direct them what to do. That's why they be able to live fully 100% in the spiritual will, in the seva for their master. For example, like the brother I told you previously, right now, he was able to live in the spiritual will for more than 7 years now. And there's never a day that he lived without his spiritual will. Because he has proved that when he followed his own will, nothing never worked for him because he has been born in a character where he is unlucky person in his destiny. But when he met with a perfect living master and the master instruct him to live in God's will, he be able to transcend his character and live in a saintly way of life where he follow only spiritual will. So therefore, it's not mean that he become a lucky person like at everything, but it means that he is more happy in whatever choice it comes, and in his life he get less distress, and then also he be able to live a happy life regardless of what his circumstance is. And because he be able to follow spiritual will fully, so he stopped praying. He stopped praying, for anything. And also he stopped worrying about everything. Because he has found the secret that has been told by one conversation with Master that he should live in God's will. He should never start anything first and let everything come to him and take course. So yes, it's possible for a normal human being to live fully in spiritual will if he know how. But in order to do that, your mind have to convince first. Like I said, let's start experiment where in one day you try to live in God's will and let go of the my will, and then you shall see and fully understand what God's will is.
This question is kind of long, but it's very relevant in today's day and age. If God's will is to do whatever opportunity that is given to us, should we just follow the orders of people even though it's from a malicious intent? For example, if a scammer asks me to buy something, should I just follow God's will and just buy it to maybe pay off a previous karma?
Right. So, the person tried to point out, okay, if we follow other people's suggestions, sometimes it might be good and not good for us, right? There's a chance that maybe, people sometimes have ill intention toward others and try to trick one another, right? Okay. But, everybody operates in God. And be, part of God. And nothing else in the creation should operate without God's order. Like the saints say, even a leaf, not be moved by God's will, right? Even the leaf not allowed to move if it's not God's will. So, let's say if you follow God's will and you should be tricked, from somebody that have ill intention. From my experience is that intention will not be fruitful. Because in God's will, if you live in God's will, you also operate in grace and blessing system. That is different from when you live in my will system. In my will system or your own will system, you live in karmic system. And the karmic system is that what you sow, so shall you reap. Yeah? Whatever you do, it creates consequences. So, but when you live in the grace system, it means whatever you do, you forward the result to God, to your master. And God should take every credit, every action that you make, and turn it into a success for you. So it means you live a life in a blessing and grace and mercy of God. And because of God have mercy upon our ignorance, because we only a mere character that operate in His system. So God will always protect the sincere one. The sincere and good heart, a sincere spiritual practitioner. If he would have been tricked and it leads to a bad result where he fall into the scam and everything, by karmic character, yes, he might have to go through some kind of suffering, or for example, losing his house, losing his money, losing his car. But by he accept to do that with good heart and actually operate in God's grace and mercy, then the consequence of that action will be very mild. For example, he might only lose some of money, but not his house, but not his car. He might suffer in some kind, but he will never lose his necessity that he should have in order to remain a sincere spiritual practitioner. He will never lose what he needs to operate as human, as a comfortable human. But anything else that is extra, that is not, like necessity for him, he might have to lose for that. Because, being a human, we need really little. We only need 2-3 meals a day. We only need a room, to sleep and, to protect ourselves from the weather. Sometimes, after initiation, I have experienced that a lot of people become more simple in their life. Before this, they might have maybe 3-4 cars. Before this, they might have 3-4 jobs, right? After that, after initiation, because they now operate in the grade system, Master might, make them to only work in one job. But that job is enough to keep them going and live a comfortable life. So they have more time to devote in their spiritual practice. And before that, they might have 3-4 cars, have a lot of responsibility. It might happen that somebody would trick them, and get the car away, fall into some kind of scam. So eventually, he only have one car. And one car is enough for us to go anywhere, right? So sometimes, when we operate in the grade system, Master will start to simplify our life. So we be able to focus more on our spiritual practice. But in worldly sense, they will thinking like, oh my God, you get initiation and you lose everything, right? But it's not like that. Because sometimes Master will want you to understand the true meaning of human life, where you being human only to see God. You being human only to seek the salvation out of this illusion, not to joy is this illusion and make your kingdom bigger and bigger, right? We're not here to live a successful human life. We're here to make a successful spiritual life, where you should put your priority on. After initiation, most of the time, Master will simplify the disciple life, where we would have only enough to operate in comfortable human life. And he will get rid of all the extras that make your mind busy and cannot focus on spirituality. And me, I would think that that is wonderful. If you be able to see the complete life of an initiate, if he would live 100 years, you will see that from birth to death, it had been planned out very beautifully of how a human being supposed to live. Not what we told we should live by the society. Because if you follow the will of the mind, live by the society standard, you will end up chasing for what is not yours throughout your life and die in misery. Is that right?
now with the next question, I think this question you might already answer, but I'm just going to ask it. How do I know when to follow God's will and when to use my common sense to say no? Maybe I can give an example. Let's say if somebody offers you a like food and the food contains meat for initiates, when is it? How do you know whether it's God's will to make you eat that food that contains meat, and should you use your common sense instead, which derives from your mind, to say no, because you will analyze like, oh, master told me to avoid eating meat, therefore my answer will be no. So yeah, I think that's the gist of the question.
Okay. Yeah. So the common sense, it's actually come from the soul. It's not come from the mind. Let me rephrase the word. You should use this word as wisdom, because you always have to operate your life, live in wisdom. So whatever choice you made is also have to make from the wisdom point of view, right? Otherwise, you will face a lot of destruction in your life if you live a life in a foolish way, right? So the common sense and also wisdom is there for you to make the right choice. Like Baba Gurindaji always said that we should use our vivek, in order to make choice. Whether it's right, whether it's wrong. For example, the brother that came to the master, and that master was Ishwapuriji. Ishwapuriji, he said that, okay, always follow God's will. Never start anything first, and, always respond to other people. Always respond to whatever comes to you. But he also said, never make yourself as a doormat. Never make yourself as, never let other people take advantage of you. And not letting other people take advantage of you require some vivek, require some of wisdom and common sense for you to choose, right? So, by our experience that we collect throughout our life, we know what is right and what is wrong for us, what is leading to good result and what is leading to bad result. And the experience is collecting in the mind and the soul level. In the soul level, like I said to you, is collecting as sanskar, as the attitude, the right attitude in life. And in the mind, it's collecting as the memory, as the event. So if you be able to ignore the mind of analytical for the experiences and the result, you only focus on the right attitude, then you will perfectly fine in whatever you do. Because you use the vivek, which is from your sanskar and not from the mind. It is purely from the soul. But if you're very confused, like, oh, I can't, all of this, I'm not getting that at all, please seek the company of the saints in your life and watch the saint very closely, how the saint living their life. Then you shall understand, you shall understand how they make choice according to God's will. And then again, you cannot understand what they do, just ask them. Seeking the advice from a living master, from a living saint, whoever you know and have direct connection, seek that then they will advise you from their own experience what is work and what is not working to live in God's will. That's why since the time in the memorial, there's always be a perfect living master and a living saint in the world. For the true spiritual seeker, the one that want to live their life in spiritual will, to help them, to assist them to achieve that goal, to live in God's will. Because it's actually the real essence of the true spiritual path. And that path, should make our journey shorter toward God. And that path should be alignment of the God will.
Right. The last question for this satsang: is living under God's will the same as living like a robot, which means to follow all orders or opportunities that come?
No, it's not living like a robot. It's actually you living with very fulfilled and content life as a human being. Because no robot have no feeling, they would not happy or not happy of the choice they make, because they see, okay, it's only following the order. It's only a practical choice they should make. But human, we not operate like that. Human, we operate from our physical body, from our senses, and operate in our mind as well. And we not use only the mind to indicate of the choice we make. So therefore, because there's many concern elements in us, so that whatever choice we make have to be agreed from every element that we have. So when we live in God's will and we let the system decide the right choice for us, then that decision will be fulfilling in your mind, will be fulfilling in your senses, and will be fulfilling in your physical body as well. So, the more we live in God's will, the more contentment and the happiness we have. Why? Because we live, where we let the soul leading us. And when the soul take over the mind, it means the love take over the hatred. Because the quality of the soul is of love, and the love is of the unconditional love from God, the divine love, then that kind of love will satisfy our mind, will satisfy our senses, and will satisfy our physical body and physical life. So when that fulfillment and the contentment come, then we live in very blissful life, in happiness, where, when you're happy, everything go right? When you're unhappy, everything go wrong. Just like when you're happy, you attract the happiness to come into your life. You attract more of the happy people into your life. So, yes, when you live in God's will, you will live in very fulfillment, contentment life. And you will actually forget how to live in my will, because you will not want unhappy life back, right? When you have a happy life. So yes, that's the secret. Living in God's will, you will actually live in love. That's why all the master, they always said, okay, live your life in love and devotion. Practice meditation in love and devotion. That's the secret. Because once you be able to live in spiritual will, in God will, you will actually automatically live your life in love and devotion to God, to the Master that initiates you. That's very easy, But to say that is easy, in action, it's very, very difficult. Because in my life, I know only a handful of people that be able to do this. And that one actually become saint, become master themselves. Just like the brother I know, now he's also, giving a spiritual discourse, giving satsang to help more people that came to him by master will. So, and apart from this brother, the good example that I know only are a perfect living master that they be able to do this. But I know that, we are sinful, right? We are ignorant beings. We are all that. And I would suggest, we should try to imitate the way Master lives their life, the way the saints operate in their life. And I guarantee that it would, be a success in the end. You might face a lot of struggle, but never give up. Because the result is really good. The result is you merge with Satpurush, you merge back with Anami Purush, you merge back with the Creator when you be able to follow with God will in every action and every thought that you have. If you be able to do that, you would reach Sachkhand in your lifetime right away. And you would be with the Creator at all times, even you live this mere physical life.
That's it for today's satsang. Thank you, main speaker, for spending time with us for this satsang. If you want more information about Ista Asia, please go to www.istaasia.com. You may also subscribe to our newsletter or email us any inquiries you may have regarding spirituality. Thank you for listening.